Hello, I'm Andy, a game developer and community manager at Unit 2 Games in Meta. In this series of videos, we're exploring how mechanics, loops, and progression combine together to create fulfilling and social worlds that people love. In the first video, we explored how mechanics are a fundamental building block of virtual worlds. Mechanics empower players to interact with the world and each other. In this video, we're going to investigate core loops, which build on top of our understanding of mechanics. Core loops are a repetitive sequence of actions that a player performs in order to progress through a game. You can think of a core loop as a sequence of mechanics. They're the things the player is doing minute to minute. Core loops give meaning to the mechanics, the things players are doing in the world, by giving reason to keep going. The end result deepens player engagement and extends the time they want to spend in the world by compelling them to reach the next logical conclusion of the loop. A strong core loop will result in players saying, "Let's play one more time." A core loop can be broken into 4 discrete stages. First, plan. The player wants to consider what to do next. Then, action. The player attempts to execute their plan. Then, feedback. The player receives some feedback from the world, and then they interpret their findings. The player can evaluate what happened versus what they thought was going to happen, and then return to part 1 where they can plan their next action. So each time the core loop is complete, the player learns some more about the world, and a stronger relationship is formed between the player and the world. A good loop for a mobile world contains some simple actions, but great feedback, so players know exactly what they did and did not do according to their plan. The length of a loop is different from a length of a play session. So a play session can have lots and lots of iterations of that core loop. Let's look at some examples of some short loops in worlds that exist already. In Kawaii's Groceries, there's some short loops that really encourage social gameplay and group participation. For example, all the players can contribute to the personal shopper loop. And essentially what this is you walk up to a bunch of boxes on one side and they have a list. And then you go and collect items around the store according to what was on that list, and you take them back to those boxes and then you receive some money. You can do this on your own or in a group, and it's really, really fun. In Glassbridge Mobile, that's a game with a much stronger single core loop where players essentially have to guess which platform to jump to, and if they get it wrong, they fall screaming into a pit. It's really nice how it's combined the simple decision making of which platform you're going to jump to with some skilled jumping as well. Like quite often I'll fall in the pit, not because I've made the wrong choice, but because my jumping wasn't very good. So the core loop in Glassbridge Mobile is jump onto a platform, either fall into the pit or stay there, and then choose the next platform to jump to. And then finally, let's look at Mars Miners, which has a much deeper core loop where players can mine rocks to earn currency, which in turn means they can unlock more powerful ways to mine rocks, and some fun cosmetics as well. The different tools and cosmetics means players can choose how they play and can choose a different journey each time they come back. In Mars Miners, the core loop is buy or upgrade a tool, mine some rocks, earn some currency. Okay, so we have an idea of what a core loop is. Now let's look at how to build one. Just like with mechanics, let's start by brainstorming for our core loop. Let's brainstorm a core loop for our simple target shooting game that we built in the first video based on mechanics. So far, we have a basic mechanic, shoot the slingshot at the targets, but we want this to turn into a loop. So let's add some stages before and after. Targets appear, and then at the end, when a target is hit, it disappears. Now we've got a basic loop, and what's really cool about doing it using just writing or pen and paper is that we can keep this really quick. We've got a basic loop already. And rather than us making something, we can actually start to imagine what this is going to be like as a game. If we wanted to add some peril here, we could do something like having a countdown. And then when the countdown reaches 0, game over, and player score is number of targets hit. So we're adding steps to our core loop and we're making it into a more interesting core loop. We've now got some peril, we've got a player score, but each time we do this, we're adding complexity. And that's something we need to consider as a builder. Each time we add some more complexity to our core loop, we're actually adding systems that we're going to have to build. And also from our player perspective, each time we add some complexity, it makes it a little bit harder for players who are new to the game to get into it without some hand-holding at the start. So be mindful whilst you're adding complexity to your loop as to what's going to work really well for your mechanic, and ensuring that your players are going to enjoy it and they have the right length of time for a core loop so that they can fit multiple loops in a single session. Okay, so once you've devised your core loop, the next stage is all about working on it in a bit of a scruffy fashion to prototype it. You want to quickly see if this works, so focus on the key mechanics in the sequence rather than tweaking values and making it perfect. Think about this stage of prototyping as broad brushstrokes and getting out that core loop so that you have a start, middle and end of the loop, and the players are experiencing the plan, action, feedback, evaluation stages. And then playtest it. Play the core loop. Play it with your friends and talk about it. Consider what aspects are fulfilling and what aspects are not, and think about whether you would play this for 2 to 5 minutes. Remember, this is experimentation at the moment, so feel free to adjust the mechanics or change things or put values to extreme values and see what different feelings that can evoke. Maybe you're looking at a sneaking game, but what happens if you ramp up the tempo so that it's actually really fast-paced bullet hell? And include feedback every time as something to improve. So think about layering your feedback with sounds and VFX, and figure out what works nicely as feedback, both in terms of what happens in the world and in terms of the effects and the sounds that you can demonstrate what happens to the player as well. So in this video, we looked at core loops. Core loops are a fundamental component of short loop worlds, and they're great for encouraging player participation whilst also deepening their engagement in the world and increasing their satisfaction and fulfillment with the time they've spent there. Core loops are everywhere in games, and one of my suggestions is to go out and play some games or consume some other media and consider what the core loop is for it. And look for more than one core loop. So maybe there's multiple different core loops, or there's loops within core loops. You can devise a core loop just by writing it out and jamming some ideas about it. And finally, we looked at prototyping your core loop and testing and refining it to improve it. That's it for this video. Hopefully this has been useful. I'm Andy, and I'll see you in Horizon Worlds.